Dunkirk is the latest film by Christopher Nolan, and it stars a lot of people, and for all intents and purposes, to properly reflect the movie, giving them credit almost seems like it doesn't matter. But to address a few of them, we got Fionn, Whitehead, Tom Hardy, Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy. That's just a few of the name actors I could pick out. And it's a World War II film about the battle, or more importantly, the evacuation of Dunkirk, where all these soldiers are trapped by the enemy. They're slowly closing on them. They're on this beach. They're trying to get boats to them to get them the fuck out of there. And it takes place on three certain perspectives: on the beach itself, on land, by the sea, and by the air. There's the soldiers on land that are trying to escape, trying to just waiting, essentially waiting. We're either going to get shot or we're going to get on a boat and escape. And then that's only the beginning of their problems, because then once they're on sea and so on, it doesn't get good at any point. They're all just miserable and waiting to die and hoping to live, but it's not a fun time. And from those three places, we got our three main character perspectives. There's the young soldier who's really just trying to get the fuck out of there, as everyone would. I would be this kid. I'm just like, let me out of here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to die. Then by sea, we got Mark Rylance and his two sons getting a boat, and they're going out there. They're boating off to Dunkirk to try and rescue as many soldiers as they can. And then by the air, we got my man Tom Hardy flying around in a plane, trying to shoot down the enemy soldier's plane. These three perspectives are going to cross, intersect, aid in each other. It's going to all add up to a big old war masterpiece, in my opinion. This is a very unique war film. It's Chris Nolan, first off, so I was very excited. And I was lucky. I didn't know much about the movie. I'm like, okay, World War II film, cool. What we actually got was, I've never seen it, but it feels like a throwback to his film Memento, where he's messing with time. Or Batman Begins, I guess. He's messing with time, perspective, and also, it's not really a war film. It's set at war, but it's more of a thriller, a psychological thriller. It's people, not necessarily cowards, but they're just like, get me away. They're just trying to escape and survive. It's not about people shooting at each other and the brains flying everywhere. I love Hacksaw Ridge, but this is not Hacksaw Ridge. Very quickly in this film, I realized this is a very different, unconventional film Chris Nolan's doing here, because so many things you would expect in a movie and to make good characters in a good movie, they're not here. There's no backstories to anyone. There's no character names. I didn't pick up a single name by any character. They don't really have any real characterization, no personalities. It's just a lot of people scared and nervous, or either agitated, angry, or scared, or shell-shocked. There's no real personality, no names, no backstories. It's just a lot of people trying to survive. And if you think about it, a lot of great war films are like that. Black Hawk Down, do you really know any of the characters in that? Not really. And let's talk about the sound design and mixing for a second. It's a Chris Nolan movie. You know, back with Dark Knight Rises, people had issues understanding Bane. Interstellar had its own troubles. But this one is the first one I really noticed where it's like, I'm not picking up a lot of this dialogue. The music with the other sounds going on, hearing people talk and understanding what they're saying, there's accents in the mix. Thinking back on it, I probably only caught about 20-25% of the actual dialogue in the movie. And there's not a lot of dialogue to begin with. It's more based on the visuals and everything. People aren't talking a lot. Some of the dialogue might almost come off unnatural or strange or just stilted and weird, because it's not typical. It's very different. But it's just like, I can't understand what anyone's saying. It was very weird. I just wasn't catching the dialogue and had to follow a different way. And it didn't really bother me. The whole idea Chris Nolan was going for is war is chaos. You don't know who people are, what they're saying, what's going on. I kind of went with it, and it added to the movie for me in a way where I could understand people could really dislike that. I didn't. And it totally makes sense Tom Hardy would be in this. He's worked with Chris Nolan a lot, and Tom Hardy has the thing with having shit on his mouth and not understanding what he's saying or doing weird voices. I didn't pick up a single word Tom Hardy said in this movie. He would say stuff, I'm like, that's his voice. I don't know what he just said. It's Tom Hardy in a Chris Nolan movie. Makes sense. This one really pushes that to the max. And at first, I was really, halfway through the movie, I was wrestling with this, wow, there's no characters. And I'm just like, this is weird. Shouldn't there be, something to care about? But I realized I was caring. I was really invested just by the way Chris Nolan was doing the filmmaking. It is actually PG-13. It's not overly bloody or violent. It's a thriller, a race against time. It's not about the war. It's not about the characters. It's about surviving. It's about trying to get away. Halfway through the movie, I was very conflicted. I didn't even know how to feel about it. I was like, there's so many things that are just unconventional, different choices where I want to respect him, but does it make a good movie to do this? And by the end of it, I was like totally won over. I was like, yes, it actually did work quite a bit. So many of those techniques actually work. You're just bouncing around in a short amount of time. It's not a classic Chris Nolan 2.5 hour movie either. It's like an hour and a half. You're bouncing around through all these perspectives, crossing through, messing with time, and you gotta go along with it. It could be easy to be lost and just be confused, like, wait, what is happening? The time does not make sense. I don't know anyone, what is going on? Like, you could lose yourself in the minutia of this movie. But I went with it. But by the end of it, reflecting, I was like, okay, I'm won over. The emotions really hit me. Even though I don't know any of the people, I still really care. And I'm overwrought with emotions at a certain point. And I'm really won over and like, yes, this is a masterpiece. This is incredible. The movie's really examining what heroism is. And by the perspectives of this, what makes you a hero. Some people think you are. You feel like you might just be a coward. What you have to do and sacrifice for heroism, what you're doing might seem inconsequential. But then from the other perspective, that was like the biggest thing ever. And the three distinct perspectives, how they interlock and cross, like that was the part I respected most. Was eventually I realized he's fucking with time. This is that from then, and that was back there, and I just like, wow, this is actually really cool. And that's the part that really won me over most, is just the inventiveness. He's gonna mess with time and the perspectives, and I thought that was incredible, and not just like trickery, but actually it helped aid in the story. Where, yeah, war is messy, you're not picking up on names, it's just about what you're trying to do and survive in the situation. It's not about learning the backstory of Harry Styles, who's in the movie, and actually really good. Harry Styles is really good. Everyone in this movie gives great performances. Minimalistic, but great performances. The direction by Chris Nolan, the unconventional take he's doing on the movie, the gorgeous cinematography, the score. You gotta give credit to this score. Hans Zimmer essentially recorded his stopwatch and made that the central theme of the movie, just the ticking of time, and it keeps building up and ramping in intensity and just keeps going. You just feel constantly on edge from the music, just the sound of the ticking clock for real, and it just ramps up the tension, and you're on edge the whole time, and it's really intense. And there are some downbeat moments where you get to relax a little bit, but not for long. The movie keeps the tension high, and when shit hits the fan and you got some crazy action, beautiful action. Chris Nolan's belief in practical effects and how he strives for that. No CGI, just listen, if we gotta use it, okay, but for so much practical effects, do it old school. The guy's a master filmmaker, and everything he's doing, his belief in how a film should be made and how we should do it, it's gorgeous to look at. Tom Hardy in the plane and the badass old school planes, the perspective where you're just watching it, like he straps the camera to the side of the plane and it's gonna fly around a little bit. It's great. It's a gorgeous, beautiful film, and it's riveting. I got taken on a real emotional journey. Halfway through, I was concerned, like, this is very different, and I was worried that it wouldn't add up to a good film, and I was skeptical halfway through, to be honest, but then by the end of it, I was totally won over. There's maybe a character too where it's like, was their involvement important or necessary? And it's a short movie, and it like feels like you've been dragged through the mud of like a 2.5 hour brutal war film. But it's like an hour and a half thriller. It just shows the impact that you went through. You just feel exhausted. You feel like an exhausted coward that's been dragged through the mud and survived Dunkirk. Could there maybe be some unneeded minutia where like this character, you could try nitpick, like, was that really necessary? I don't know. It adds to the minutia and overall feel of the movie, and just adds an emotional arc so that these characters can feel about each other a certain way because this happened to someone else and blah blah blah. Like, I was gonna nitpick a character, like, this character's not needed. This whole plotline seems kind of strange of why they wanted this character here. This little boy in this boat, does he really matter? Every time I thought something might be like not important or inconsequential, the movie just reminds me later, shows that no, it's important, it all adds up to something, it's all special. Absolutely love Dunkirk. It's genius filmmaking by Chris Nolan, another masterpiece by the guy. Every time he makes a movie, it's just utter perfection. The guy knows what he's doing. A different, unique perspective, unique filmmaking, very different. Not like everything else, just strange at times, very weird. But after it's all said and done, you reflect, you're like, yes, this was genius. This was really great. A very unconventional film. I haven't actually seen Memento, but I imagine it's one of his films like that where it's different, it's weird, but I dig it. All the actors give great performances of minimalistic characters. You read into the situation. It's not about learning who they are. It's about wanting to survive with them, wanting to see them survive. The craziness of war, getting lost in the perspectives, crossing over with all these different people. All the genius of the movie is masterful. I thought it was a very bold, brave choice for Chris Nolan to do all these artistic choices, but that's what makes it a Chris Nolan film. The guy has his unique perspective on how to make a movie, the crazy things he's gonna do, the beautiful way it's filmed and looks, the sound, everything about it. It's so Chris Nolan, and I love that. That's why we love Chris Nolan. The guy sometimes takes risks, and maybe they don't always pay off. Interstellar has some choices that are like, maybe not so well, but in here it just felt like everything really paid off, and it's just a guy took risks, did crazy shit, and I loved it. Because I can really understand if people dislike this movie or hate this movie or are very disappointed. I get it. It's very unconventional, very different. There's so many things that are just not what you expect to see in movies, and there are things that are rules where it's like, okay, if you're making a good movie, there's general rules most people follow, where it's like you gotta understand dialogue, you gotta have characters that are developed and have backstories and this and that. All these things that you're supposed to do, and Chris Nolan's just breaking rules, doing what he wants. And I'm going with it, and it's working for me. Not every movie has to be the same. This is not a movie where character development's important. Maybe you don't understand most of the dialogue or what people are saying, and I kind of go with it. And I myself was wrestling with the movie and in conflict, like, I don't know if I like this, but by the time it was all said and done, when it all came to a close, I was like, okay, that's the movie. I dig it. Halfway through, I was concerned and not sure if I liked it or not, but given the whole experience, I was won over by it. I understand if you don't like it. I totally understand. And to be honest, the movie did drag for me a little bit. There was a scene or two, there's moments where it's going on maybe a little too long, maybe it's a little too slow, and it's just like I was sitting there like, speed it up a little bit. Speed it up a little bit. It dragged a little bit for me a few times to nitpick that, yeah, it was a little slow at times. But overall, I loved the movie. I thought Dunkirk is, to say it one more time, a masterpiece. It was genius. I would give Dunkirk an A. That's my thoughts on the film. Comment below, tell me your thoughts on Dunkirk. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.